This is Comic Geek Speak, episode 1854, Marvel Cinematic Universe Phase 4 discussion. I couldn't think of what it was. I blanked.
Every time we can't even do an opening.
I couldn't think of what we were, it's not comic talk, whatever. Okay, good. That's fine. Hello.
We can call whatever the hell we want.
That's right. So let's go. Let's jump in. We did our preamble before we recorded. We don't need to bore the listeners and bullshit, Yeah. Although I have to say, I don't know if do you ever go back and listen to old episodes?
Not really.
No, you should. You should go back and listen to like the anniversary episode, the live call-in shows and stuff like that, with like all the random people who call in, or what was the one I listened to? Oh, the post episode 300 episode. We were all in the room talking about episode 300 and just all the shenanigans and stuff like that, and just it's kind of crazy. But it's fun because you hear different voices and different voicemails, and you're like, oh wow, I wonder what happened to them and what happened to them. And but it made me think, because I sent Bryan the Joe Quesada put on Twitter that the mofo is leaving Marvel. He was Marvel when we started. So,
yeah.
I mean, he became the head muckety muck in 2000, and that's quite. That's 20 some years, 22 years.
I know it's funny thinking about it now, because it seemed like such a big deal when it happened.
Right.
Because he went from being the editor of Marvel Knights, right, to then all of a sudden becoming editor in chief. And that was a big jump, right? At the time, I think we were all like fairly surprised.
Yeah.
Because Marvel was just not in a good place. And I think they were just like, oh, he had 2 years doing good things with this Marvel Knights stuff, so let's just hand it to him, and if he messes up, no one will be surprised, and the whole thing will just sink, right? I think it was sort of just like a Hail Mary, like we got no one else will take this terrible job right now, so let put all the blame on him if it messes up. And then he turned it around and made Marvel huge again. So like it was I just remember it being very shocking when he got the job.
And I think the good thing too about it was, so he was less than 4. He was born in 62, so he was like 38 when he got the EIC, right? 72, 82, 92, 2000. Yeah.
Wait, 62? So he's 60 now?
Yeah. Yeah.
It's so weird thinking of Joe Quesada as being 60 years old.
Right. Because I feel like what he did was he made himself into another, sort of like Stan Lee. Like he wanted to put a face back to the whoever was in charge. Because I don't, who was it before? I think it was it Bob Harris before him? I think, or Bob Harris. I don't know who that is. Even when I was reading comics, but we knew who Joe Quesada was. We knew who Jimmy Palmiotti was because of Marvel Knights, and we knew. Daredevil and Inhumans and Black Panther, all those amazing titles that they kept putting out. And then he comes to and then he becomes EIC, and now he's like the biggest. He's swinging his dick. Like he was a loudmouth, right? He was blasting DC all the time, and he was putting it out there. We're gonna find the best creators on the best titles. He started doing things like was it under his thing where like characters no longer were going to smoke, nobody was going to come back from the dead, like he kept putting all these things out there, and I think just to kind of make noise, and it worked.
I think a lot of creators liked him personally, and so he had a lot of strong relationships with a lot of big creators, like Bendis especially, and so I think, I have no idea whether people liked Bob Harris or not, so I'm not digging on the guy, but I'm just, I definitely think that people genuinely liked working with Quesada, and so he was able to nurture a lot of relationships with some very talented people. And I think that helped the success of Marvel. I think he was not afraid to push those people and let them have creativity, right? Like I think he, as a creator, he knew to trust other creators, or at least which creators to trust, and just let them do stuff, right? Like Brubaker with Captain America and stuff. It was like, you just do whatever the hell you want to do. Like I don't think he was squashing that at all, right? It was just letting it happen.
Right. We're gonna bring back Bucky. Sure, bring back Bucky. Why not? Give us a good story. Yep.
Exactly.
Yeah. Yeah, and you're right. And I think, those early, we've talked about this on like, in you can go back and listen to those early CGS episodes. Like the early 2000s were this kind of rejuvenation in interesting books again, and a lot of it was because of Marvel Knights and because of Quesada, and then DC's reaction to that, obviously, and then DC does something, and then they hit on doing, let's do Civil War, and then Civil War begats this and begats that, and suddenly it was like, we're like the ultimate, like I'm looking at as Ultimates, the whole Ultimate line.
Yeah. Well, I was just going to say, like, we just have this Doctor Strange movie out, and it's called Multiverse of Madness, right? And really, there's an argument that says like the true Marvel multiverse was created with the Ultimate line, right? Like that was really the beginning where Marvel really embraced the fact that there are. But it really wasn't until later that then when they started merging them, that then the multiverse was really born, right? And that was all under Quesada.
Yeah, because he hated the whole idea of like Crisis and trying to fix universes that way and things like that. Like early on, he hated that. And there were alternate Earths and things like that, but it wasn't until like you said, until they started crossing over and really embracing it. It's kind of only really been in the last 10, 15 years, maybe. Right. A lot of his books under his tenure is the foundation of the Marvel Cinematic Universe.
Yeah, I think it's, I don't know. Obviously there's going to be haters out there, but I don't know how, from like a business perspective, how you could call anything that he did anything other than a success, right? Like Marvel was on the brink of bankruptcy, and then Marvel Knights came out, and then everything started to turn around, and then they handed him the keys, and then it just exploded. And now Marvel movie franchise makes more money than anything on earth practically, right? And it's just like, there you go. Like that's, it's huge.
I can't remember what convention it was, because I still have on a backing board his stupid Q signature thing.
Yeah.
But it was some Wizard World Philly, I think, that he was just signing something.
Yeah.
So maybe 2000, 2001.
I remember at the first New York Comic-Con, I went out to get a friend in, and then I had to wait in that awful line. Remember it? Because there were so many people. And Quesada was like 3 people behind us in line, because he went out to go to the bathroom and then got stuck. And they were like, the bouncers guys, they don't give a fuck who Joe Quesada is. They don't even know who that is.
Fire marshals.
Yeah, they don't care. So I remember that was pretty funny.
Yeah. So he's moving on. What he wrote in a letter. He's moving on. He's got projects. He's got something from Marvel coming up, but he's also going to work on. I think there's been a lot of creators that have done that, the whole Substack thing, whether that's really going to pan out. I mean, we're still kind of waiting for that to pan out, but the initial burst kind of showed people, there's more money out there, that maybe this is maybe through Kickstarter or crowdfunding or whatever. I don't know. He wants to get back to it.
I love his artwork, and I have since the whole, sort of Azrael thing, right? I think that was probably the first time I was really introduced to his work. And I hope that he draws something amazing. I'm looking forward to, because he didn't have time to draw when he was editor.
No. I read recently, in the past like 4 or 5 months, for another podcast, read the Ray miniseries, the 6 issues Ray miniseries, and it first of all, it still holds up story-wise, but then the artwork too, it's like that early, very squiggly Joe Quesada artwork, that just was so energetic and perfect for that character. Yeah.
Was that before or after sort of Azrael?
Oh, it might be before. I'd have to check.
That's what I was thinking. I didn't read it until after, because I I wasn't really a DC guy. So I read Sword of Azrael because it was a Batman thing, but I didn't even know who the heck the Ray was. But then I think it might have even been after we started CGS that I read the Ray, or it could have just been Mike Spillane telling me to
read it. Ray started December of 91, and Sword of Azrael was released August of 92. So he certainly was working on.
Yeah. Interesting.
I've never read the Sword of Azrael, actually.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I haven't read it in so damn long. I just remember liking it when I was, 17. So whatever, 18 or whatever it was when it came out. Sure. I don't know. God, Quesada's 60. Peter, we're old. What the hell? Ay.
As long as my students still think I'm in my late 30s, I'm fine.
Yeah, it's true.
Well, we got good genetics. Your parents are you got good genes from your parents. I got good genes just because I'm Puerto Rican, I guess. I don't know. It's good. I'm fine. I'll write it out. I'm gonna keep.
Yeah. Exactly.
We don't smoke.
Don't question it.
Right.
Yeah,
we don't smoke.
True.
We're not big drinkers.
Exactly.
I think all that stuff. We stay out of the sun.
Yes, I avoid the sun at all costs.
If it wasn't just for those damn gray curly hairs in my hair, So, here's a funny story. I can't believe I'm telling this. So, I have a hair person in Philly that I've, when you have curly hair, you just can't go to any place, right? You got to find. So I went to this, when I was living in South Philly, I went to this one place. She was fine. She always wanted to do crazy things with my hair, and I was like, just cut it so that it lays curly. That's all I want. But I went to her a couple times. She was like $30 for a haircut, okay. Then I went to this other place. I was like, I got to try something else. I don't really want crazy hair. I want hair. So I went to this other place. They were more of, also in South Philly, but they were more of like total just generic salon place. And they butchered my hair. Like that was one haircut and that was it. So it was done. So then I found this woman. She is wonderful. Knows how to cut curly hair. It lays beautifully. It grows out beautifully, wonderful, wonderful, wonderful. So I get a haircut in the past 3 months or whatever it was. This is the whole conversation about getting old. And prior to that, she cut it a little too short. Like, I don't mind that, because it's going to grow out. But I'm like, just leave some length here. I was showing her, and I went to like my upper temple and I was like, and can you kind of leave some here, because, and she went, oh, because you're bald. She goes, that's okay. She goes, I know you didn't want to say it, so I'll say it. I'm like, no, I'm just... it's receding a little bit. It's not, I have beautiful, look at this curly hair, look at a lot of hair, Yeah. So she goes, oh, because you're bald. I laughed. I was like, I can't believe she said that to me. And she said, she goes, haha, I said it because I know you didn't want to. I was like, oh, thanks. Thanks a lot. Oh my God. Anyway, all right. Well, sayonara, Joe Quesada. Onward and upward, I guess.
Yeah, I hope he has fun doing whatever's next.
All right, so we were gonna talk about Walt Simonson, but neither of us read anything. So might as well tell the truth, whatever. Yeah. Not that we don't want to read it, but just so then. I knew you were going on vacation, since I was like, let's get something in there, and I thought of the last time you talked, you were probably going to be able to see Spider-Man by now.
Yep.
Spider-Man No Way Home. And I went and powered through like all of Marvel Phase 4 because my sister has Disney and, we shared the thing. And I was like, okay, I want to watch it. I want to watch it all in order. So I thought, well, let's just do a big like Marvel Phase 4, Disney Plus movies, whatever, let's just do a generic discussion about it and see where it goes. So
the first thing that we have to say is there's so much to talk about because there's so much content. Like, what is this world we're living in, Peter? There's all these shows, all these movies. I mean, there's a freaking Shang-Chi movie. Like, what? There was a movie out called The Multiverse of Madness, which would have been like impossible to even fathom 20 years ago. Like, I mean, what this is the golden age of being a geek. I mean, my God.
I know it's too much. I know we've had this conversation before, but it is too much because like Stranger Things just dropped.
Yeah. Obi-Wan is happening. I'm trying to watch that. Yeah.
Right. And I'm still going in chronological order. So well, no, actually, I guess I will eventually get to that because technically that's before A New Hope, right? So what else, Star, the Star Trek stuff, like there's, and what was the other thing on Netflix too? Oh, there's just way too much. There's way too much, but you're right. I wanted to let me just quick look. What were we doing movie reviews on when we first started? Like, what were we watching? Even before like Iron Man.
Well, episode 3 and Sin City. I think we did a Sin City
that's
movie.
Right.
That was so long ago. I mean, that was a great movie.
Fantastic Four. Oh, Batman Begins. Right. Yeah. So we were in that world.
Batman Begins was the whole Jamie and Tasha and I got free passes to that like preview show from Wizard World Philly, and we got stuck on the bus because the construction and the bus driver didn't know how to get back to the convention center and took us the long way. I had to go up to the front and direct him.
Oh my God.
How to get to this. Oh God.
But that's what we were going through, nothing was solidified yet,
yeah.
It was sort of like in that in-between state, in between the reign of the Burton movies. We were already in the Spider-Man, X-Men stuff, but nothing was really connecting or anything.
You're right. Yeah.
Yeah. And now it's.
I saw a meme that sums it up perfectly. It was like the picture was like some kids fighting in the foreground, and in the background there was just a kid like leaning up against the wall, like all cool and chill. And it said like, the kids fighting was like, fanboys arguing about minutia from, all the new Marvel and Star Wars stuff, or it was like specifically about Star Wars. And then the person on the back was like, people 50 and older just happy that there's new content. And that's exactly how I feel about all of this stuff.
Right.
Like, it doesn't even matter if any of these shows or movies are particularly amazing. It's that like I'm watching a new Marvel thing.
Right.
It's a real thing with amazing production value, and it all connects, and I'm watching it.
Right.
Like 17-year-old me can't possibly imagine the world that we're living. Like, it's incredible. And so, yeah. Do I love every scene and every bit? No. Like, is some of the acting maybe less than amazing? Maybe. Or some of the plot lines got holes in? Sure. Like, but it's new Marvel content, right? Like, I don't care. Like, come on.
I mean, think about, in the 80s when, oh my God, we're going to watch the trial of the Incredible Hulk, and there's going to be a Daredevil in a black costume, and we all went nuts because it's Daredevil, and it's Kingpin, and it's, the Hulk. And Thor showed up in one of those dumb movies, looking nothing like the Thor that we know. And that's the stuff that I can remember watching, was being excited about those.
The Roger Corman Fantastic Four or whatever.
Yeah, how. And it really, obviously we talked enough about like seeing like Tim Burton's Batman, but the small, like the Generation X TV movie, when that came out, I watched it. It was terrible, but I watched it because it's just all you had. That's all you had to do, Yeah, that's funny. That's funny because for the longest time, DC had a handle on it, right? They had more exposure because their parent company, So you get a Batman movie, you get a Lois and Clark TV show, and then eventually a Smallville TV show, and they'll make a Steel movie, and they'll make a terrible Catwoman movie, and blah 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 blah, because they don't care, because they know Batman's going to make a lot of money, But what was Marvel doing? Before Blade, what were they really doing? They weren't
right. Well, they were going bankrupt. Is what they were doing.
They were selling off their characters.
Yeah. Because they had to.
Right. Oh, that's funny.
And now they're buying them all back. That's crazy.
Yeah.
I mean, they have everything back now, right? Except for this like partnership with Spider-Man. Because they got they bought Fox, and so then that got them Fantastic Four and X-Men, and that was it. So, and Sony is at least being smart and saying, "Oh, Marvel's going to make more money with Spider-Man if we let them do it for us than if we try to do it ourselves." So, they'll just take the profit share and come out ahead. So, at least they're being smart about it.
What did you think of that movie?
The Spider-Man movie?
No Way Home. Yeah,
I thought it was great. I mean, I think he is such an incredible Spider-Man. Like he has nailed Peter Parker. Like that. I think. I mean, I like Tobey Maguire, right? Like he was a good Peter Parker, but this kid Tom Holland just like he is I think he's like the epitome of Peter Parker. He's just like I think he's everything that I ever wanted from a Peter Parker, like in my head, right? At least like younger Peter Parker, right? Like when he gets older or whatever. I think maybe that's the deal, is like Tom Holland, I think, is Peter Parker when he was supposed to be 17. And Tobey Maguire is Peter Parker when he was supposed to be like 25 or whatever, like the later, like McFarlane era Spider-Man, like Peter Parker or whatever, I think.
Even though those movies were like him in high school, they still always read older. They always read older. Tom Holland was like the first one to read younger. Yeah, and it makes difference. It was interesting to watch it. I watched it again today, and when you see all three of them there, and I me, my brain, I pick up small little shit, right? So when Andrew Garfield and Tobey Maguire are in Ned's dining room, and they're like looking at each other, and they almost have like that standoff, right? They're like, and they shoot their webs. Tobey manages to actually gum up Andrew's web shooters, right? And I was like, oh, that's interesting. They made Tobey win that, quote unquote, win that little thing. And then Tobey also is the one that stops Tom Holland from actually ramming the glider onto Green Goblin. It's Tobey that jumps down in front of it, And I sort of wondered if that was their way to kind of give the OG, well, I can't say live action Spider-Man, but movie Spider-Man his due, because he was older but he also is the one, right? He got the 3 movies. Those movies were incredible, So I thought that was interesting in the bouts when Spider-Man went up against Spider-Man. Tobey edged out just a little bit each time. I was like, yeah, that's right, Tobey Maguire, you the man.
The whole bit about, wait, they come out of your body,
right?
Like that was funny,
Right. They had to say, because remember when that was the thing, everybody freaked out about that when in the movie, right? Like fans, when they were like, "What? He's going to have organic web shooters?" I remember people really freaked out about it. They were like, "No, blah, 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 blah." Was that how the Ultimate Spider-Man was then? I don't remember.
I don't remember either. But they put it in the books then at some point. Then he had organic ones. But was that after the Tobey Maguire movie that they did that? God, I don't. Kevin would know. I don't know. I don't. And what about Spider-Man 2099? Did he have organic ones or machines? I don't remember.
Yeah.
I don't know.
They had to make. I love that they made a reference of that. They just had to, because that was such a sticking point in that first movie. People were. I didn't really care. I was like, whatever. It
makes more sense that they would be organic. Like he's spider. If he is crossed with a spider, spiders emit webs. So why wouldn't why do you have to build fake webs so that he could be more like a spider? That was maybe like a little weak in 1962.
Yeah, I think. Well, go ahead. What else? What else did you like about the movie?
I mean, they're just fun. I guess that's one of the things why I've always really liked Spider-Man comics is they're just fun, right? Because he's being, irreverent, idiot with his commentary, like his constant joking and stuff. And it seems like he's never taking it too seriously, even though he's in danger all the time. He's still swinging around and having fun, right? Like, and so Spider-Man comics were always just sort of super accessible because they were just entertaining, right? Mm-hmm. And that's the way I think all 3 of these movies were, like, because the writing is so good. Like they've really captured the attitude of Peter Parker, and not just Peter Parker, but like even when he's in the costume, he's making jokes. It just feels like Spider-Man, and so it's just fun. And so I just enjoyed it, right? I don't know. and I do think it was cool that they, you know, introduced the Spider-Verse, uh, and I'm really interested to see what happens with the next animated movie that will connect, is sort of connected or maybe not connected or whatever. But like those that first one was really amazing, and yeah, and it just like there's so much potential for the wider Marvel universe with all of the different spider characters and how they might come about, and
Yeah.
who knows. I just thought it was fun.
Yeah.
Right. Like I just enjoyed it.
I mean, people are hoping, and I think they would be dumb not to, but now's the time to do a third Amazing Spider-Man. You didn't get to finish that trilogy, with Andrew
Oh my
Garfield.
God.
Like,
You think they would bring him back for a third movie?
I mean, if you bring him back for something like this, where you give credit to your Marvel universe, your larger Marvel universe that wasn't part of the Marvel Cinematic Universe, you know what I mean? Like, if you're acknowledging all this stuff, they're going to do it with X-Men and Fantastic Four eventually. Like, why not give Andrew Garfield another movie? You could make it even post No Way Home, right? Because the ending of No Way Home, the thing that confuses me, or the thing that I want to know, is if you fixed all these villains and you sent them back, then those endings don't happen. They didn't happen the same way, right? Like, supposedly they pulled Doc Ock right before he died. Supposedly they pulled Goblin right before he got somewhere in that last fight in the first Spider-Man movie. So if you send them back, if you send the villains back, do they stop the fight? What happens to them? Like, I kind of want to know that, So, and the Amazing Spider-Man, even though I don't, those movies weren't as well, they weren't as well loved as the Tobey Maguire ones, I think. I think it would be interesting to see a third Andrew Garfield Amazing Spider, like finish the trilogy.
I never even watched the second one. The first one was so bad. I don't even think I finished watching the first one. I watched like half of it, and I was like, why am I wasting my time? It was so atrocious. I just gave up. So I never even saw the second one, any of it.
You're not gonna like it. I mean, the Electro stuff was not. He's not the Electro that was in this version,
Right.
Obviously, because he makes references to it. But I think if they spin it with the whole idea of now working with Marvel, and I think they could do it. I mean, I think the time of worrying about multiple versions of a character, first, like for DC, it's gone, right? Like, they've done it with Superman. There's like 80 million versions of Superman out there right now, Batman is just, in the past 7-8 years, we've had how many Batman? So do it. You put all three of them in a movie, like, spin it out. You have something called the Spider-Verse, where we're already those, you're educating your people who haven't read comics that there's multiple versions. Great. Give us an Andrew Garfield Spider-Man movie. Make it a direct to Disney Plus movie, or if you don't want to put it out there, if you don't think it's going to sell. I think it would actually sell, especially now, post No Way Home.
Well, sure. Now I think it gave him more. It gave those movies credibility that they never had before.
Right.
Yeah. So I mean, if a third one came out, I would see it, because I'm sure the production value and the script writing would be better. I think like they were just like phoning in those last two Spider-Man movies because they didn't really care, right?
Yeah.
But now I would get a lot more attention.
Yeah. Well, it'll be interesting when you see. The other thing I was going to say, it'd be interesting when you see Doctor Strange. It was really cool. It hit home this time when I watched it right before our conversation. How many of like, we always talk about the Marvel Cinematic Universe through the lens of Jack Kirby, but this was the Marvel Cinematic Universe through the lens of Steve Ditko, because you have Doctor Strange and Spider-Man and all the villains, and you're like, oh right, Electro, oh right, Sandman, oh yeah, Dr. Octopus, I mean Goblin, it's just Ditko everywhere. And it was interesting I've seen Doctor Strange. I'm not going to talk about it, but it was interesting to see Sam Raimi direct that, but yet we're watching his Spider-Man.
Yeah.
And because he does have a Ditko brain a little bit, I think back in those Spider-Man movies and what I saw in Doctor Strange, there's some Ditko feeling to his movie making. But that really hit home that I don't think many people talk about, that Spider-Man No Way Home is like a love letter to Steve Ditko in many ways.
Well, that's a good point.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They have his name. I noticed it was graffitied onto the one moving truck that they when they go back to Happy's place, and the lizard is in that truck. It says Ditko in graffiti.
Oh, yeah.
So
I might have. I don't remember if I noticed that or not, but
yeah,
because I don't remember anything.
Right. What'd you think of the Aunt May being the one to deliver home finally after 3 movies? The whole with great power comes great responsibility.
Well, I mean, it was good. The whole Aunt May thing was like, you can't kill her all. Like, what? She's so young still, right? You know what I mean? It was like, I mean, and she was. I liked the like sort of modernization of, instead of having Aunt May be like this old biddy, even though we love her in the comics, but it's like they made her like the younger, hipper aunt, right? And I thought that was like a nice touch. And I was sort of looking forward to like seeing that go on if they make any more Spider-Man movies, or there's more cameos in other Marvel movies and stuff. And now it's like he's just on his own, right? Which was like a little, I don't know. I would have preferred she just stayed alive. Maybe she didn't want to be in any more movies, although I can't imagine her saying no to the paycheck. So I guess they just wrote her out. I wanted to touch on something real quickly. You said you're talking about how there's like 8 million Batmans and Supermans and stuff. Marvel seems to be taking like a more careful approach, right? So like we had the same actors since the Marvel Cinematic Universe started, like all the same actors have played the same characters, right? And then they killed Captain America and they killed Iron Man, right? Now we know it's comics, so we know they'll be back, right? Now those actors are probably young enough that they can come back if, even if they wait 5 or 10 years, even like Chris Evans could certainly come back, and Robert Downey Jr. with some makeup, he'll be fine. Like he could be Iron Man again, right? But I wonder what approach they will take from a storytelling point of view if those actors didn't want to come back, right? Will they just, instead of just making someone who sort of vaguely looks like Robert Downey Jr. and have him be Iron Man, will they pass the baton to like a different person to be Iron Man, right? Like, or different character, because I feel like they're definitely trying very hard to maintain the continuity where it's like Chris Evans is Captain America, like Steve Rogers, Captain America.
Right.
So like we could have some new person be a new Captain America, but Steve Rogers will always be Chris Evans. And if Chris Evans, the actor, dies in real life or does not want to do Captain America again, I think that we probably will not see Steve Rogers, Captain America.
Yeah. I mean, they're doing the legacy thing. I think that's why they're introducing a lot of the younger characters, especially on Disney Plus. And there's an Iron Heart movie supposedly in the works down the road and things like that. I think where it gets tripped up is when, for instance, when Chadwick Boseman, when he unfortunately passed early, in what I assume was their plans. Like, I think that's where recasting is almost necessary, because someone pointed it out on Twitter, a Black author, and I can't remember who it was, but they said they certainly understand the value of wanting to honor Chadwick's legacy, right? Obviously, when he passed away, you aren't going to announce 3 weeks later that there's a new Black Panther, right? Like, no, you're going to honor the legacy. But the way they put it is, but there is also value in giving us more of that character, because there has never been that character.
Right.
And I really think that that's the core of it, right? You can love the actor and what he brought to the character, but it's not like the Superman character who has had multiple movies and multiple TV shows. He's had one movie, his own movie, some appearances here and there. We need more Black Panther. I don't know what they're doing with this new Black Panther, but eventually we don't need a Killmonger as Black Panther. We need T'Challa back again, you know. I don't know how they're going to do it. I think they're just going to have to say and be honest, this is the new T'Challa, you know. And they're not totally, I mean, you know, we had two War Machines, James Rhodey, right? We did have two actors there. We had what?
That's true, but that was because that was the first Marvel Cinematic Universe movie to the second one, and that actor was apparently just a pain in the ass to work with, so they're like, fuck this guy, we're not dealing with it. But they didn't know that the MCU was going to be successful yet, right? So,
and the same thing with the two Hulks. So I think they can just, at this point, to your point though, right, I think the legacy thing is going to work, or they just lean into the whole multiverse thing, and that's
why
how you get it.
I think they did that on purpose to give themselves some leeway. You know, you can anytime, anywhere in the Marvel universe, you can have some portal open up and somebody steps through and they're the Iron Man from Earth 279. And there you go. It's a new actor and it's fine. Right. Because they've been watching through their special interdimensional mirror and they're like, hey, look, I know what's going on and I'm smart and I can be here and help you. Right. Like it's all you got to do. It's comics. So we don't care.
It's totally comics. And I think they also set up a precedent. And you saw What If, I assume. Did you see all the What If?
Yeah.
Yeah. Of how they've flipped certain characters, you know, where T'Challa is now Star-Lord in that version. Right. Like, I think there's another way to skirt the whole, well, let's just put different actors in different costumes, let them play something else. Why not? You know, like, okay, makes sense. Yeah.
Also, I know there's so much other great stuff coming, but like the comic book fan in me, like, we know that Captain America and Iron Man will be back, right? Because nobody dies in comics, right? And I do hope that Chris Evans and Robert Downey Jr. get at least cameos in some. Kang shows up in a new Avengers movie and then they go back in time and there's weird things and it's like, hey, look, Chris Evans and Robert Downey Jr. are back. Like they have to be back, right? Like as comic book fans, we know it's inevitable. And as fans of those actors playing those characters, we want them to be back. And if I want to assume that both of those humans have learned some things about the source material. They don't have to be experts, but I hope that they've either read a few comics or been briefed on some comics or whatever. And they know that characters come back and nobody's ever dead. So like, they got to be thinking, yeah, I put the costume back on for a 10-minute cameo in the next big Avengers movie when Kang shows up. Of course I'm going to do that because how could you not?
Yeah.
God, that's got to be like so much fun.
Yeah. And I mean, you know, because you always see pictures with them with like Bob Layton and Robert Downey Jr., you know, hugging each other because all those stories that Bob Layton did, you know, became movies, you know,
and how many
Starlin and
how many dinners did Bob Layton bore Robert Downey Jr. rambling on about Iron Man stuff that, you know, he's the coolest person ever in the world because he wrote some interesting Iron Man stories. I know that from personal experience.
Was he the one that did I moderate his panel up in Canada? Was that Bob Layton?
No, but he came to the London Con one year and Pants and I were sitting in the lobby at the hotel like the day before the con waiting for like John to like get out of a meeting or something so we could talk about like how we were going to set up the strategy or whatever. And Bob Layton sits down and, you know, we were chatting to him and then he like just starts telling like boastful, obnoxious stories. It's like, I respect the guy for the work that he's done. And he should be somewhat proud of himself. He did do some classic stories, but like, it was like, dude, like 15-year-olds have no idea who you are. Like you're not that popular anymore. You know what I mean? And I was like, just check yourself, man. Like And I can just imagine him talking to Robert Downey Jr. and Robert being like, "Give me another vodka," like maybe he's
no,
sober.
he doesn't
I don't
drink.
know.
Yeah, he's sober.
Yeah, but whatever,
Yeah, I think it was at Denver Comic-Con now that I think about it, because we were outside of the convention center. We had like a conversation beforehand. And then he's like, you're moderating my panel, so let's go talk. And it was like, I'm sitting out here talking about Bob Layton. I'm pretty sure it was Bob Layton. I gotta, and it was either up in Canada or it was down in Denver. What was the other thing I was going to say about all that? Oh, I mean, there's an Armor Wars movie coming, so we're not done with Bob Layton yet.
Right.
So
yes, exactly.
No, I think you're right. I mean, that is going to be the fun thing if that happens. I mean, I've been such a fan of Robert Downey Jr. I mean, you can't grow up in the 80s and not know who Robert Downey Jr. was, through all those Brat Pack movies and then Charlie Chaplin. And then for him to own Tony Stark in a way that I don't think many of the other actors do. There's a lot of people who love Chris Evans as Captain America. I don't see him as he's totally fine in the role, but that's not what Captain America was to me in the comics. Robert Downey was like pulled from the comic pages to the point that they then reversed it, and now Tony Stark is more like Robert Downey Jr. in the comic. So for whenever you see he is Tony Stark when he goes to all those conventions and he goes to interviews and you see him on late night shows. He has now, because Tony Stark is him and he is Tony Stark and he's lived that life. I mean, it's so interesting to see him really. He's like the other pillar of the Marvel Cinematic Universe.
Oh, yeah.
You put Kevin Feige, you put Jack Kirby, you put Stan Lee, you put, all the other, Joe Simon, all the other creators. Somewhere in there, you have to also put Robert Downey Jr. Because if it was on his shoulders, if that movie wouldn't have worked, a lot of that was on him and Jon Favreau,
Yeah. Oh, no, I mean, 100%. If he wasn't as charismatic as he was in that movie, and if he didn't play Tony Stark the way that he played him, that movie would not have been as entertaining.
Right.
That his portrayal of Tony Stark is like 75% of why that movie is awesome.
Right.
Even to a person who knows nothing about comic books, like that character is just mesmerizing. He's funny and he's quirky and he's good looking and like all of the thing, right? And then it's just like, that's why that movie's great. Forget the flying with the jets and like, the Iron Man armor is great and ILM did a hell of a job on it, right? Like, I'm not trying to detract from that in any way, but I feel like that takes a back seat to his performance as Tony Stark.
Yeah, my girlfriend at the time said, this is a sexy movie. This is a sexy effing movie because of him and because of the suit and the jets. And
right.
All that.
Yeah.
That's why Top Gun is breaking records right now, because people do love jets on some level. I mean, think about how different the Marvel Universe, the cinematic universe would have been. First of all, if Thor was the first movie, I don't think it would have resonated the same way.
No.
And if Captain America was the first movie, the World War II focused movie, I don't know if the tone of the Marvel, I think the tone of the Marvel Universe would have been very different. It probably would have been very much like the whole Superman thing, where Superman kind of leads the DC Universe. Captain America would have led the Marvel Universe. And I think it was just a smart bet to they just did it right. They landed, it was a lot of luck and it was a lot of thinking and it was a lot of taking chances and that's, for Iron Man to be the first one, I think that it would be kind of cool to there. I'm going to go to a multiverse where Captain America was the first movie, and I just want to see what that means then.
Yeah, everything's just a little more somber or whatever.
Yeah, or just a little more, I'm Captain America, where Iron Man is more like, yeah, guess what? Yeah, I am Iron Man, bitch. Let's go.
Yeah. So what was of this wave of stuff, what was your favorite of the TV shows?
So I watched them in order. Where's the list? And for overall, because I actually broke it down on Twitter the one day. Overall, for me, for what I like out of the Marvel Universe, because you know me, I love connectivity and I love themes and all this stuff. I thought for me, the Falcon and the Winter Soldier was the one that was like an overall win for me. Even if it's not the one that bowls me over the most, and maybe it's not, it might be the safe, in some way it's the safest one because it feels very much like the movies, but yet it's not safe because they really dug deep into the whole Isaiah Bradley thing and making Sam Wilson Captain America. I mean, I thought they really took a lot of chances that I hope they put into the movies. So that one for me was my biggie. Yeah.
And that was very good.
What was yours?
I don't know. It's hard for me to say. I really did like WandaVision.
Mm-hmm.
First of all, I liked how like the first 2 episodes were almost just 50s and 60s sitcoms with just a sliver of connection to the Marvel universe.
Right.
And I know that, this is what fans piss me off so much, or so-called fans, because like when that first episode came out, people were enraged. They were like, I don't want to watch an I Love Lucy, whatever. It's like, that's not what this whole show is going to be. Give it a chance. Like you had a half an hour. Can you give it another 25 minutes to see what's going to happen? Like, my God, you're already stark raving mad about one episode, and it turned out to be a great series. And I the whole Agatha Harkness thing, and I love that actress too. So that was
right. Sure,
that was fun. But yeah, it really went to like a dark and crazy place. And Vision being all pissed at Wanda and everything. It was very rich. I think. It was a lot of sort of depth to that one.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas like, I feel like Falcon Winter Soldier was like, it was very good, but it was sort of like surface. It was like just straight up, like sort of good comic book fun.
Right.
I mean, there was death and there was, stuff in it. Like, it's not like lighthearted. Right. But just like a little more like,
it's a little more straightforward.
Yeah, a little more. That's the word I'm looking for. Straightforward, right? Yeah. Whereas the WandaVision was like,
they took chances.
Like, there was all these layers of stuff to it, which I thought was fascinating.
I mean, when you look at the list, like, that's where they flip flopped, right? You had something like WandaVision, then you go straightforward Falcon and Winter Soldier, then you go back to the zaniness with Loki. But then you come back with Hawkeye, a little more straightforward, right?
Yeah.
Now we're back to the zany again with Moon Knight, So they're. I think that's what you have to do.
Loki, I forgot about Loki. Loki was really good.
You liked Loki?
I did like Loki a lot. I think part of it, I just like go with my instinct. Like, I don't really have reasons why I like stuff. It's just sort of like a feeling that I get.
Yeah.
And like, Tom Hiddleston is mesmerizing. Like, I absolutely crush on Tom Hiddleston. And also Owen Wilson. I love him.
He was really, I have to say, he was really good in that movie.
He was really good
in that series. Yeah.
Yeah.
He really was.
And so the two of them, like, in every scene, it was like one of the two was basically in every scene. Right. And so it was just like, I was just so enthralled by it, like, the whole time. So whether or not I have any idea, like, what was really going on with the story, like, I don't care, right? But I do love that, like, that whole, like, time association thing was like, that's a Simonson thing, right? And so, like, that was cool that, like, he was getting some love, and so I don't know. I liked it.
Yeah. Well, let me go to WandaVision. I love the creativity thing. The thing that bugged me about WandaVision was the ending that she got off. That bugged me, that she enslaved that town, and then they're like, but it's okay. We know what you're going through. I know I'm just. I was like, no. And then somebody even pointed out, was like, well, then maybe that's the way they get people to hate the X-Men, because she enslaved this town. And I'm like, no. You don't show hatred for mutants because a mutant did something bad. You show hatred for mutant because people just are prejudiced. People, you don't give them a reason. That's a terrible reason to hate mutants, because then I would go, yeah, then you should hate mutants because she did that, But anyway, so the thing about Loki, I agree. I thought the relationship between Hiddleston and Wilson, was more interesting than Loki wanting to hook up with himself from another universe, even if it was a girl. I was like, that's weird. That was weird to me. I was like, no, what are you trying to say here? You know, I know there's supposed to be somebody different, but it's still a Loki. Like, ew, you know. But I actually didn't care for those scenes with her. I was more interested in like that development. Because see, I'm also one of those people that I don't need to have my villains not rectified, but I don't want them to be heroes, right? Like I just actually watched the first Avengers movie a couple weeks back, and I was like, wow, he really was a SOB in that movie. I mean, he was dark. He was in a dark place because he was kicked out of Asgard. He was Thanos' lackey. He didn't care. You know, he was still funny. He was still a good actor because he is a good actor. But he wasn't like the lovable Loki that everybody loves now. And I'm like, no, can he just be a villain? Can he just be I just want villains. I don't.
Well, Loki's never really been a villain, though, right? Like that's
true.
Like even in Norse mythology, he's
right.
not
he's a trickster. And all
yeah, he's 1 minute he's Thor's best friend, the next minute he's a huge pain in the ass, right? Yeah. Like so, that's they're doing that really well. Where it's like you love him, you hate him, you love him, you hate him, you trust him. Then why did I trust them? I can't trust them. But then you make the same mistake again because then he's like, well, he's fine, he's helping you. You can trust him, and then you can't.
Right. I don't ever want to trust him. I don't like him. But the Kang stuff, because I love Kang. I love Kang. When that
Avengers forever, baby.
Yeah, like that to me is like, do that and I'll be very happy. And I think that's what they have to do because I don't want another alien thing, and I don't want.
Well, they're doing Secret Invasion TV show, right?
Yeah, but that's supposed to take place during the blip, I think they said, or something like that. Like,
right, but I mean, it's an alien thing.
Oh, sure. So but I don't want like. What I'm hoping, I know this is going to sound weird. I don't want another universe level villain, even though that is what Kang is. Kang is different in his approach. Like Kang to me is craftier.
Right.
Kang is, I don't know.
Yeah. Otherwise, he could just go super far in the future, get a super powerful weapon, come back and blow up the Earth. Like what,
Right.
And
so maybe they'll do something interesting with that.
Plus, it gives him a reason to have a cameo for the two actors.
Yeah, right. What'd you think of Hawkeye?
I liked it.
So did I. I had the most fun with that one.
Yeah, it was super straightforward, but that's okay. Like I don't always want to have to think super intensely for a comic book character, right? I just want to be entertained.
Sure.
Haley Steinfeld, that's her name, right?
Mm-hmm.
She is amazing on Dickinson. I don't know if you've seen the Apple TV Plus show, but that's a really great show. So I like her. Yeah, everything about that show was it was good. I didn't really have any problems with it, and you got to see Echo and
Kingpin. And
Kingpin was back, which was great. Again, like tying in the Netflix shows into the Marvel universe, and like that was cool. And what the hell was it that Charlie Cox showed up? Was that in Moon Knight?
No, it was No Way Home.
Was it a No Way Home? Okay,
Peter Parker's lawyer. Yeah.
I just couldn't remember where he showed up. So so that was fun, and I really liked it.
Yeah, I like her. I like the first thing I saw her in was Bumblebee, of all things, which I actually liked.
Oh yeah, that's a great
Bumblebee.
Movie. Yeah, I think it's a great movie.
It's fun. I thought for a restart of or whatever. I mean, whenever they say reboots and restarts, in my brain, I'm like, that could fit in the old Michael Bay movies. You change a couple things and it's the same universe. Who gives a shit, right? But I did, and I really liked the trailer that they put out of that. Is a really great trailer. Like, I know that's weird to talk about, but when movies have great like the Logan trailer was phenomenal with that what's his name, Johnny Cash cover of that song, and like
Nine Inch Nails song.
Yeah, when the Bumblebee movie came out and it had the trailer, and I was like, oh, that was a good trailer. I was like, this is gonna be a good movie. I know you can't base it on that. But it did. I liked her in that. I liked her a lot in that. So she was good. She was good in Hawkeye. Hawkeye was just fun. I'm not the biggest fan of Jeremy Renner, and I think the Hawkeye in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, he's got the nature of like, he doesn't really, it's like he just doesn't want to be in the movies, right? Jeremy Renner just doesn't want to be a movie actor. And that's, Hawkeye's like, I just don't want to be Hawkeye, you know?
Right.
Part of me wants a little flashier version of Hawkeye, but it works. And I had a lot of fun with that, even as kind of obvious as some of the thing, as it plays out, I'm like, well, I know you can kind of tell who's going to be the big bad, and you could see how things were going to go. I did not know Kingpin was coming, so that was a nice surprise. Yeah.
The funny thing about that, so I started doing archery last summer.
Yeah, you mentioned.
And so when we were watching, and Tasha and Clara do archery as well. So when we were watching it, there's a few scenes where you're like, what are they even doing? Like, they can't, you know, and it was like, I'm a super amateur, and I was already like, oh yeah, you can't, that's not how that works. Right? Yeah. Like, it was pretty funny.
But at least they busted out the trick arrows finally.
Yes, you know. Which was great. Like, that's a perfect comic book thing that just needs to be there, right? Which is, and like you're saying, like, you sort of want them to be flashier. It's like, I am still, like, of all the things that, as like a fanboy, that I'm frustrated by is like, sometimes there's holding back on the costume business. It's like, I want Hawkeye's purple crazy costume, right? Like, they did Mysterio like pretty damn close to what Mysterio is supposed to look like, so that was cool, right? In the second Spider-Man movie. But like, there's other costumes. I'm like, could you just like get a little closer to the comic book version? Like, now that we have all these crazy new materials, and you know, they sold us a line with the first X-Men movie where it's like, you can't have people in spandex and actually look good, so we have them all in leather stuff. It's like, okay, fine, it's the X-Men, I'll buy that. But now it's like, come on, you can do all this stuff, and even if you have to CG some stuff or whatever, like, you can make them look, you can put those crazy ass costumes on them and have them look good, you know.
Well, speaking of costume, did you see Moon Knight?
Yeah.
Okay. There's a costume.
Yeah. I think it looked cool, right? And I loved the suit version from that whatever run of, was that the Charlie Houston run, or whose run was that?
I think the Warren. Oh, I forget.
Oh yeah, Warren Ellis. Yeah, you're right. I forgot about that one.
I forget who drew it.
Yeah, I really liked it. First of all, man, those two playing on that actor playing off of himself like that was really impressive, right? Like, I'm not an actor, so I don't know, but you tell me, like, that's got to be hard to do, right?
Yeah, like, I think the thing you take away you have to take away is it was an Oscar Isaac vehicle. It was almost not even a Moon Knight vehicle. It's an Oscar Isaac movie, or TV show,
yeah. I mean, that's like, it's so convincing that you really just think it's two actors. Like, maybe it's twins who are, you know, doing the thing, because it's so convincing. I mean, the whole plot and everything was like maybe a little more austere than it's like a little weird. I didn't really need all that.
Right. I didn't need a talking hippopotamus in this show.
Yeah. I mean, I get it, because like Egyptian mythology and had all those characters and stuff, but like, it was a little weird. But he was amazing. The costumes looked great for the 3 scenes that they were in them, right? There were barely any costumes. And it was Moon Knight. Like, we had a Moon Knight show. Like, what? We actually had a Moon Knight television show, Peter. That's a thing that exists now. Like, what? Yeah. So I'm fine. And again, like, to go back to like that meme that I was talking about, it's like, I don't care if it was the greatest or if there was some weird talking hippopotamus. I got to watch 6 episodes of a Moon Knight TV show with my family, and it was mostly pretty darn good. Like, cool. I'm a happy comic book fan. Like,
that started out strong for me, and then by the end, I was like, no, I didn't like where they took it. I wonder if maybe they could course correct, because they've done that before, where, they kind of bring in a character and you're like, yeah, like Batroc. Remember the first time you saw Batroc, and then that was it, like 2 seconds, and Captain America wiped the floor with him, and that was it. But then they brought him back again. Where did they bring him back? What movie? What was it? It was
Was it in the Falcon Winter Soldier, or they're all run together, man?
I know. And it was like, okay, that's good. Like, maybe maybe next time the Moon Knight version that we'll get will be more like a traditional,
Well, now that they have this like relationship with each other where they can just sort of turn it on and off whenever they want to, right? There's like, it's like cool.
Yeah.
Like
plus a third one.
Yeah. So I think, if he's in a movie or whatever, or if it's just a second season, you see, that's the thing, is like, we don't know necessarily what they're going to do with some of these, like whether they're going to be another season, whether they're going to go into movies, whether there's going to be appearances, or who knows. Right.
Yeah.
I sort of love it. It's like they just sort of gave us all these characters, and then now we get to see what they do with next with them.
Because someone said that about Game of Thrones, where they talked about how really, even though those Game of Thrones, the episodes were only an hour long, they really were making an hour-long movie.
Mm-hmm.
Because when you think of how many different locations they had to go to, costuming, huge cast of characters, right? These Disney shows, very much every now and then, one or two, you watch them and you go, that's like movie level making for a TV show, so it's like, we need a new term. They can't just be called TV shows anymore.
Yeah,
because there's something in between. But then, having said that, what is it like for someone like Oscar Isaac, who carried that show, to have to do 6 episodes, 6 hours? That's 2 movies, 3 movies.
Right.
In his mind, did he just do 3 movies? Or did he just do...
Well, and did he really do twice that? Because he physically can't be in the same scene at the same time with himself, right? So he's got to act out and then change costumes and then act it out again. So he's really doing twice the work.
Yeah. Triple, if you think. Well, I don't know how much he was actually in the Moon Knight costume, but so it makes you wonder. It's a little different than, say, you get Sebastian Stan. Is that Bucky's name? Yeah, Sebastian Stan, Winter Soldier. And they sign him up right away. You're going to do 7 movies, 9 movies, whatever the number. It was like this gross amount of, Here's Oscar Isaac. They're like, oh, we're gonna sign you up for a TV show. At the end of that, does he go, no, you just really just made me do 3 movies. So in my contract, it says I have to do a total of 6. I already did 3. I wonder how will that factor into the whole thing that you say about what is the longevity of this then? Are they going to put these characters in an Avengers movie, and a Kang versus Kang movie, a new movie, Defender, whatever, So that will be interesting to see.
I hope that they do some, now that they, like, the cast of characters is just getting bigger and bigger, I hope they do some crazy team ups like there have been in the comics, right? Where there's like bizarre, like the classic, Fantastic Four with Hulk and Ghost Rider and Wolverine and Spider-Man, right? Or Spider-Man. Yeah. And just like, wasn't Moon Knight in some team up with somebody? It's like, well, I mean, there's a bazillion team ups in all of comics. So sure.
Well, there's more team names. They should just start introducing. They just got to keep. I mean, was he in West Coast Avengers? I think Moon Knight was in West Coast Avengers.
I can't see them doing a West Coast. Of course, we couldn't imagine them doing a Guardians of the Galaxy. So, like, I guess they could do West Coast Avengers.
I know. Everybody when Rocket first appeared on the TV or in the movies, right? They were like, "Oh my God, you can't believe they did a talking raccoon." And everybody loved it, or a talking tree, and I feel that way, like, even like in the Supergirl TV show, they actually did Red Tornado. I was like, are you effing kidding me that they did Red Tornado? They can do anybody, they're going to do anybody. They can, as long as it just, if you give it its credence, if you give it its due, it's going to work. Or maybe it doesn't even need to work. I think they've garnered so much goodwill, especially the Marvel Cinematic Universe. It doesn't need to work. They just need to introduce it.
Yeah.
And let the people decide for themselves. And then that's it. People hated the way the Abomination looked in Incredible Hulk, and then he shows up in Shang-Chi, and they're like, "Oh my God, it's Abomination!" I'm like, "Yeah, see, I guess he wasn't all that bad back then, was he?" Because now you just love the fact that they remember and they bring it back, and they keep bringing these things back. That's what having a connected universe means now. Just bringing little snippets back. What about the movies? What did you think of like Black Widow, Eternals, Shang-Chi? Do you remember those?
I guess I liked the most about Black Widow was that David Harbour was the
Red Guardian,
guy, right? Yeah, like that was awesome. No, I mean the movie was fine, right? Like it was entertaining, and the introduction of the sister who then later came into play, and she was in the Hawkeye show, right? So that was, it was cool because like we didn't know what was going to be in Hawkeye when we saw Black Widow, and then all of a sudden it was like, ooh, okay, that's cool. So it was a fun movie. Eternals was interesting, right? Because for like the first part of that movie, I wasn't sure if I cared, but then by the end, I'm like, oh, I love these characters. And so, because I was watching it, I'm like, ooh, is this Marvel's first like true screw up? This is their big failure movie, right? But then by the end, I'm like, oh, these people are great. So like I'm looking forward to whatever comes next with those characters and stuff, right? Like who knows?
Right.
We might not see him for 2 or 3 years or whatever, but that's fine, right?
Right. I mean, you have someone like Angelina Jolie. Is she really going to commit to 8 movies? I mean,
no, but
they want to do 1, maybe 2, maybe 3 because they know they can bank some money. I mean, they're not making that. They're not making Robert Downey Jr. money, but they're making some money.
It's guaranteed residuals for like a long time, right?
Yeah, I mean, it comes with a lot of perks. Is really what it is. Because the other thing most people don't think too about. Robert Downey Jr. was smart. He gets paid. He gets a lot of perks to be Robert Downey Jr. He gets paid for appearances. And the company, this is the other part of the acting thing, Marvel is going to treat their actors very well when it comes to their trailers, concessions, it's a killer work schedule, which I think early on, that's the thing most people really didn't like about the Marvel making process because it was so fast. It was like a factory. And in many ways that's unhealthy. In other ways, it's you got to make sure you're sticking to the rules, and all that kind of stuff. But on the flip side of it, when they go to these premieres, when they go to whatever, they're getting pampered. They're getting in front of publicity, right? Like Julia Louis-Dreyfus is now the Contessa in these, now she can now walk the Marvel. She doesn't have to worry about Elaine and Veep. Seinfeld and Veep and whatever else. She's now the Contessa in the Marvel Universe. She can be walking red carpets for the rest of her life now just on that. Like that's the other thing I think people kind of, when they, I'm always the big contender that I hate when actors cross similar movies within one genre, but Julia Louis-Dreyfus has not been in any superhero movie that I remember. She was in Christmas Vacation. That's kind of like a comic book movie. But so now she's the Contessa. She probably doesn't take. They call her up, Julia. Are you free like in 3 weeks on a week? Yeah, I can be there. Give me 2 scenes. I'll make some funny jokes. That's the thing. Like when I watched that Eternals, I was like, oh my God, not all of them are major stars, but it's flipping Angelina Jolie and Salma Hayek.
Oh, right? Yeah.
Right. She don't want to do, she's a mother probably. She don't want to do 9 Marvel movies, So I agree with you with Eternals. I sat there like you and I was like, this is a lot about characters that are very, who are they? They're just, who are they? All right, so they're establishing some mythology that could kind of cross over into the Shang-Chi rings thing. Like the Eternals technology was similar. Okay. And I'm watching, and then suddenly, like it becomes something else and it becomes something else and it gets a little bigger. And I actually was surprised by the heel turn. And then you get to the beach scene, and I forget who I texted, but I was like, oh, Marvel just basically did Justice League in the big beach fight. because it was Superman against Wonder Woman, Flash, Green Lantern, or Cyborg. Actually, you should it was a Justice League scene. I was like, oh, but then I don't know. By the end of it, I was like, I like that movie.
Yeah, I know
really
exactly.
Did.
I don't know how many times I would watch it again.
Right.
But it was a plus in my book.
Yeah.
Right? Like,
yeah. Because Shang-Chi, I don't think I could ever watch Shang-Chi again. I'll watch the fights on YouTube, but I can't watch. Where that went at the end, the whole mythological thing and the land, and I was like, no, that's not for me. I appreciate what they did, and the movie making is fine, but not for me. Yeah.
Yeah. Same. Right? Like, I guess I just want my Shang-Chi to be like a little more street level. Just like, just beat up guys in Times Square or whatever. I don't know. Right? Like,
But I guess if they did that, too many people would have said, oh, it's too much like Iron Fist, and maybe.
Sure. No, I mean, I totally get why they did it. And, I'm sure there's a lot of people who really, really enjoyed that and like the mythology and all that stuff. And that doesn't mean that, like, if there's a Shang-Chi 2, that they have to go down the same path. They could just bring it back and make it more street level or whatever. So maybe we'll get something a little more familiar or just more our speed. But again, we still got to watch a Shang-Chi movie, which in and of itself is crazy.
In terms of the movie making, just to have a cast of characters, that are all of, certain demographic like that, I'm not taking anything of that away. And I don't want people to say that I'm saying the failure is because of that too. I just think the story, just like, we were teased with the Mandarin in all those early Iron Man movies. I wanted the 10 rings to be 10 rings and shoot out fire and flame and gravity or whatever else. You know what I mean? Like, and I guess it would have been too close to the Thanos rings or the Thanos gems, but because the fight stuff was cool to watch. It was fun. Yeah. I'm not so invested. I'm not so knowledgeable in kung fu movies that some people are like, oh, it could have been richer in that regard with the old kung fu movies, or it could have been a little more. I don't know that enough, But I tell you, Black Widow, Florence Pugh, is that her name? The new Black Widow, the Yelena character.
Yeah,
she's great. I actually think she's a better actress than Scarlett Johansson in that movie. Like, I think she's a better Black Widow than Black Widow. I really fell in love with her character in that movie and in Hawkeye. So good.
Yeah, no, she's doing a great job. The main woman character in Shang-Chi, that like comedian, with the like raspy voice,
Awkwafina.
She's funny. She did a good job in that and was definitely like, really great comic relief. And so I enjoyed that.
Yeah.
She was also in Ocean's 8. If you
that's
saw
right.
that.
Yeah, I did.
She was funny in that.
I went on and I don't know, I might have said it before, but I started watching franchises. Like I was tired of not seeing every movie in a franchise, right? And I think one of the first ones I watched was Aliens. So I went back to Alien and went all the way through up to Covenant, I guess was the last one at that time. And then I did the same thing with Mission Impossible. I'm doing it again because a new one is coming out. So I just saw the first one again. But then one of the other franchises was the whole Oceans movies. I went through all of them. Yeah, they were even the ones that were kind of like, that I got a little lost on one of the plots. I was like, I don't even know what's happening, but whatever. Okay, just keep it going. It was fine. It's fine. Yeah, they're fun. They're fun movies. Yeah, I mean, the whole Phase 4 is an interesting mishmash of, I guess, what we said before. Throw everything out, see what the people react to, then we'll worry about figuring out what we're going to do with it, if at all.
And again, like, as I've said before, I'm just thankful that there's all these characters and stuff that I'm actually getting to see. But I am super excited to see what Marvel does with Fantastic Four.
Okay.
I mean, I just love the Fantastic Four. I have for a very long time, and previous attempts have been cheesy and ill-conceived, and like we could actually get Galactus that like looks like Galactus, right? Like they could do this, right? And getting a smart ass thing and the bickering with Johnny Blake, like all the stuff, like just like it will be, I know it will be good, right? And it will look good, and they're the first family, right? Like, and then they're like sort of the glue of the entire Marvel universe, like, and it's to see the movie itself, and then to see how it will eventually connect to all the other movies and all the other characters and everything, and have them all in, and some, just like we got these teases in the Avengers movies when you have all these characters all fighting together and saving Earth, right? But it's like Mr. Fantastic needs to be in there. Johnny Storm needs to be flying through, and the Thing needs to be smashing something, and like they need to be in that mix, right? And we're so close. I know they haven't like announced like actors or when the movie will be or whatever, but just knowing that they own those characters and knowing that it's coming, like they're gonna do something with it sooner or later.
Yeah,
that has me probably the most excited
cool.
About whatever comes next, right?
I mean, that's how you get Chris Evans back. He just
so he can be Johnny Storm again.
It's Johnny Storm again. Tell me you wouldn't love that. He would.
I mean, it would be funny. It would be funny. Yeah,
I love that. Yeah, I was reading the Onslaught event because I really wanted to read Thunderbolts again, but I was like, let me go back and read like Onslaught, then I'll read the Heroes Reborn stuff, just to kind of see how it went, and then I'll get to Thunderbolts. And when you read the ending of Onslaught, even though it was such an X-Men event, I was hit home with this feeling of how the Fantastic Four were played as, you said, Marvel's first family. Like, it really was about them by the end of it, because, they were wiping out all these characters to push them into Jim Lee and Rob Liefeld's world. And modern Marvel age, at least at that time, started because of the Fantastic Four. So it wound up ending with them in many ways. And it was so interesting to read that in 1996, a comic from 1996. And I was going, wow, think of how, obviously the X-Men reigned supreme in the 80s and the 90s and somewhat in the 2000s. But when we got out of Heroes Reborn and it was Heroes Return, and then it got closer and closer to like Joe Quesada and Bendis, suddenly the Avengers were the thing, right? Like when you put Spider-Man and Wolverine on the Avengers, that was it. The Avengers became the flagship book of the Marvel Universe, and it no longer was the X-Men. I think to this, maybe now with this whole House of X stuff, the X-Men have kind of blown up again. But in comic books, it really was all about the Avengers. And it was so interesting to see when it was not about the Avengers, how they hit that whole first family concept. And then I can also remember like when Carlos Pacheco was drawing and writing the book post Heroes Reborn.
I have a Carlos Pacheco Fantastic Four page hanging in my bedroom.
Yeah, it's good stuff. So it's interesting that you pointed that out. It's like something. There's no way you could say Tony Stark, Robert Downey Jr.'s Tony Stark. He's not the heart of the Marvel Universe, even though he doesn't have a heart, like people could say he is. That's not really where and Captain America is not necessarily the heart. He's like maybe the spirit or the whatever. The core of the Marvel Universe for many people is the Fantastic Four. So it will be interesting to see them come back. Yeah.
And of course, the X-Men, or just mutants in general. There's so many mutants. Yeah. I mean, who whether it's X-Men, X Factor, I don't care, right? But it's just like some of those characters, that's going to be exciting too. I think it's just exciting because so far they've treated every character with so much reverence, right? And even though there's like great actors and great scenes in those first 3 X-Men movies, that were really cool, especially as fans at the time. It was like, oh my God, I mean, Patrick Stewart, I think, will be the best, Professor Xavier that will ever be cast ever. And it's like, whoever follows up on that, it has a real, like, I don't know who they're going to get, but man, that is going to be some pressure. Right. And of course, Wolverine was awesome. So I almost wonder if they won't come out the gate with Wolverine or with, they kind of have to have Professor X because you can't really have the X-Men without him. But like, are they going to go with like X Factor, like the original X-Men? So you kind of leave the Wolverine thing alone for a little bit. And I don't know. It'll be interesting to see what they do, right? Because there's a million of them, so they can do all kinds of stuff. But I am looking forward to it.
Or they'll do it. I mean, when they did Ant-Man, but it was not about Hank Pym, right? It was about Scott Lang. And then that opened up backward. You can go backwards and do all the Michael Douglas stuff, and Michelle Pfeiffer, that was interesting. It's an interesting way to create lineage without actually having to go in order. So
start with New Mutants or something.
Yeah, maybe you have to go. Maybe you have to go totally new, which is something I keep saying about all franchises. Just give us something new, new character, not new characters, but just characters we haven't seen on the screen before.
Right.
I'm okay with that. Because I think we, again, love or hate the Marvel Cinematic Universe for whatever, they have earned enough goodwill that they can do whatever they want. And people will either come to it or they won't. And that's I don't think that's their goal anymore. I think their goal is to flood entertainment with so much content that you are not watching anything but Marvel stuff. I mean, that's just Disney's policy from whatever, you pick a year, that's always been Disney's thing. So, and now that they have all these different streams and now they're finally starting to get good animation, I mean, really good animation. I know people like certain cartoons or whatever, but Marvel has never been, their cartoons haven't been as successful. But what if Spider-Verse, absolutely, they start doing things like that, that's another venue. That's another different medium to put out these characters. So
I thought it was really interesting what you said about we need a new word because movies and TV shows are too binary and there's this new space sort of in between. Because I really love this thing that Disney is doing with Marvel and with Star Wars, where it's like we get some movies and then we get some shows and they're connected, and then you'll get some movies and then you'll get some shows, and then like the same actors that were in the movies are now on the shows, and then they're going to go back to the movies maybe, and then it's like it's just a constant, instead of this waiting for this big 2-hour thing, I wait a much shorter period of time and I get 3 to 6 hours of stuff. Right. And then I wait a little bit and then I get another 3 to 6 hours of stuff. It's like I'm getting more content and I'm waiting less time. And sometimes it's more interesting because it's longer form, so they can tell like a bigger story. And it's not just big action sequences. Or like in Moon Knight, where there's basically no action sequences. It's really cool, and I think it's a fun way to tell stories, especially these big universe full stories, right?
And they haven't perfected it yet. Yes, there have been, I know some people say like what Mandalorian was really good, or there's been absolutely shows that have been amazing. Squid Games, was fucking amazing. Like I loved Squid Games, and Cobra Kai has hit certain things, but within like because there is no identity to it, that it's not a TV show, it's not an episodic show, but it is an episode, but it's a little more narrative. Sometimes it works. Like it's not working for me with Picard to be a longer connected 10 episodes, when Next Generation was all about the episode to episode, not a long form. But yet other shows are doing it very well where it is a long story, but just broken up into chapters. So they're still finding out how to make those kind of things, because we also absorb them differently. Some people watch them week to week. Some people watch them 6 hours in a row. So it's from a construction point of view, it has to be really frustrating because sometimes it works. And when it doesn't work, you're like, oh, that was a really boring episode. But story-wise, they needed to get through to that to get to the other side. And it's like, well, how do you navigate that? You just got to have some that are clunkers and you just got to keep pushing forward.
What's interesting, right, is like when you watch these shows, like the running time on every episode is different.
Mm-hmm.
So they don't have like a mark, right? It's not like you have to do 22 minutes of an episode or 46 minutes or whatever it is, right? It's like one of them's 31 minutes, the next one's 52 minutes, and then the next one's 43. And then it's like they're telling what they think they need to tell. And so I think they'll just refine that a little bit and like start to like say, well, okay, why is this episode maybe a clunker? Can we just get rid of a bunch of this stuff? Like we said we're going to do 6 episodes, but one episode could be 20 some minutes. It doesn't have to be over 30. So like, let's trim and reshape and then that's it. You know?
Yeah.
I think they'll figure it out. Yeah. I don't know.
Yeah. It's an ever growing thing. And it goes back to, I don't know where I had this conversation, but when Walking Dead hit the TV show, hit cable and just totally and all the stuff going on HBO, all those brilliant shows on HBO, and suddenly you try to watch a 22, 23 episode thing on regular TV, and you're like,
it's brutal.
Just beat me over the head. Like, you can do 22 episodes, but how about just making them in chunks of 11 episodes? And then the second 11 are something totally different. Get rid of the fluff. Like, I can't watch scheduled TV anymore. I have to let a bunch of episodes go and this is a conversation, a lot of people are having. So
I have been trying to stay up on the new Star Trek though. Okay. Strange New World.
Oh, see, I'm so not caught up on that. That's good.
Yeah, the new one dropped today or yesterday. I didn't watch that yet. I didn't have time, but yeah, I've seen the first 4 episodes. It's really good. It is like villain of the week. And I'm like, I want an overarching story. Like, I'm so used to overarching stories. That's what I expect now. Right. And it's like, okay, well, are they going to keep it this way, or are they just like introducing us to the characters, breaking us in, and then they'll start telling longer form? Yeah. Because despite how good the actors are and how beautiful the show is, I think it's the highest quality of all the new Star Trek so far. I'm like, guys, if you do this for 10 episodes, I'm going to be pissed. Like, I want it to connect. I want it to have meaning rather than just like, go here and save this planet, go there, save that planet.
Yeah, I mean, they wanted to return to the original format, and especially because some of the other ones didn't. But I think they will. It's kind of like What If. Like, What If was all a bunch of one-off stories, and then the last 2 episodes wrapped it all up again. And I was like, yeah that's probably that's a new, you could almost see that as a new way of doing these things. Like, how many episodes we got? 12? All right, the last 3 are going to make up for all of it. And like what you said about WandaVision, you either go along with it or you don't, and then wait till it ends and then go, oh, okay, well, now I'll go back and watch it all again. I was talking about the reason why, like Picard, I'm halfway through the 2nd season of Picard, and I'm just not, it's fine, but it's not what I wanted, and it's not.
Yeah, I think I've watched 3 episodes so far.
Yeah, and the point that I made to someone was, or even on one of my own shows or something like that, was I can go and point out 5 amazing episodes of Star Trek Next Generation by title, and go, this episode was about the Enterprise C coming forward into the future. This episode was about the Borg doing this, right? But when you watch a narrative episodic show, they're not making them like that. They're not making each episode with like a beginning, middle, and end, even if it is connected. But then this just hit me now. I remember the first couple seasons of the new Battlestar, where they had very specific episodes, like the one called 33, I think it is. Every 33 minutes, the Cylons would attack. Yeah. Like, you can pinpoint that as its own episode as part of a larger narrative. That's what I want. That's the middle ground.
They just have to be more creative. They have to like push themselves. And I think that, I feel like that is like, that should be the new bar, where it's like, don't start working on the show until you have 10 great scripts that connect, but at least 3 of them need to really stand on their own.
Yeah.
Like they should just have like the rule where it's like, like in TV is like, oh, they had the bottle episode, or they did this to save money or whatever. It's like, well, now it's like, you need your 3 33s.
Yeah. Yeah.
In every 10 episodes.
Yeah. Or what was the one? What's the one in Lost? The Constant, or whatever, the one with what's his face and his girlfriend making the phone calls and.
Oh God, I don't remember. It was so long ago,
or
Peter.
Or Game of Thrones, like had brilliant individual episodes,
like the Red Wedding. Or
whatever, exactly. Like that to me is. That's
or like the Buffy episode, the episode,
Hush
or whatever.
One, yeah,
Hush,
yep, absolutely. And that was the very first. That's the first Buffy episode I ever saw. Wow. So it was like,
you jumped right in.
Yeah, because my best friend from college was like, who's not a comic book fan or a fantasy fan at all. She was like, yeah, we watch Buffy. I was like, really? Buffy? Get the hell out of here. She goes, yeah, watch it. So I was like, all right. And it was first run. And I was like, let me watch this stupid show. And I was like, holy shit, that was a good episode. Like, that's what you need, I don't know if it means, like, when you have a show like Ozark, you probably don't need that because the show itself is kind of great. Sopranos probably was great, but I bet you there are hardcore Sopranos fans that say, oh, I can name 5 episodes that I read.
Oh, well, like the Pine Barrens episode.
Oh, see, I don't know. I haven't seen it. So there you go.
Well, you haven't watched that?
No.
Oh,
There's
wow.
too much to watch. There's too much to watch.
Oh, my God.
But that's my point, right? When you watch large narrative shows, if you can't single out, even in Moon Knight, as much as I didn't like the Asylum episode, I understand its point. I know you can pull that out as the Asylum episode, whatever. If that was like the 5th one or something like that.
Yeah.
There's not many of the Disney Plus ones that you can pull out episode, from. So in that conversation, that's what I would want as they're writing these things. Give us really good episodes that makes me want to come back and makes me forgive that you're going to do 3 more that are just going to push the story along. So, yeah, that would be fun. And don't call them streaming shows. I hate that. I hate that term. They're not streaming shows. Like, no, it's got to be another name. I don't know what it is. So,
well, you coin that term, and then it'll catch. And then you can be the proud creator of whatever this new medium is, Peter.
I guess that's why they call it streaming shows, because TV is you watch on TV and movies you watch on movies. But I watch my streaming shows on my laptop. So they're not going to be called laptops.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of people watch them on their phones. Or whatever.
Mobile. Yeah, there's a bad word name out there, and I don't know what it is. So,
it's Crusaders TV is what it is.
Yeah, I mean, you guys really made that.
I was so ahead of my time, Peter.
You were. Where's the Disney Plus Crusaders show?
I just like a couple $1,000 back for all those VHS tapes. I'd be happy. That's all I need.
I bet you if you did a fundraiser, a Kickstarter, people would buy them.
We don't have anymore. They got all trashed. They were like in Jamie's garage, and after he died, Sean was like, "Can we get rid of these now?" And I was like, "Yeah, there's no reason to have these. Nobody's buying these tapes."
They're in some landfill somewhere.
Yeah.
Somebody's
It's gonna be like when they went and dug up the old ET Atari game. They located, they were all preserved, right? The someday there's gonna be the Crusaders. They're gonna track them down, dig up the.
No, I was thinking wherever they make landfills, some fisherman's just gonna be, like how they treasure hunters are gonna walk through and they're gonna think, "Ooh, I found this amazing Crusaders," and like that'd be amazing. And suddenly they're like, "Look what I found!"
God.
That's what some Twilight Zone episode where 100 years from now somebody has like a religion based on those characters.
Mr. Marvelous is like the savior
Yes.
with his cape and everything.
Oh my God. Paperboy's a prophet. He's like a prophet.
No, that makes sense to me.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Oh, fun.
Oh man.
All right, this was fun.
Yeah.
We should do it again sometime.
We should. We always say that, and then it's like 3 months go by. Yeah.
We should try this podcast thing. What's this all about?
I wonder what that could amount to. Yeah. Maybe we'll get a deal with Spotify.
There you go.
Once again, we were ahead of our time. We put all that work in, and
oh, you know what I wanted to ask you real quick? We'll end on this. The first London Super Show.
Yeah.
Where SuperCon, I forget what it was called.
London Super Comic Con.
Okay. Was George Perez at that one?
Yeah, I don't think it was the first one. The first one was Stan Lee.
Okay.
And I don't think we had George too. Pants would know. I think he was definitely there for the second London show.
My feeling is, was that the show that brought him over there for the first time? Because someone, I forget, it was an interview or someone mentioned it, and they were talking about meeting George at the London Super Show, and I kind of was like, has he ever been over there before? Maybe he has, but part of me feels like at least the most recent time was that one.
So the reason that show kind of took form is because there hadn't really been shows in the UK that had lots of American creators, right? There had been a long series of smaller shows that just had all the same British creators because they were available, right? They were there. And then we brought all these American people over. So I don't, George had a long career. So it's possible, like in the 90s craze that, or the cross-gen days, like maybe they went on tour and he went over there or something, but I don't know for sure.
There's a list here I just found and they're saying London Comic-Con, February of 2012. 2012, 2013.
God, I can't believe that was 10 years ago. What the hell?
And I don't, I'm putting in England, no, UK, no. I don't know. I wondered about that. I wondered if to go back to the whole thing of like how much history and how much has been happened because of the CGS podcast. Like one of the things it might have been that George Perez, the whole reason he went over there was because of that convention.
Could be.
That'd be amazing. That'd be amazing.
That would be amazing.
Yeah, maybe somebody will know. But I'm looking at all these other appearances, and there's a lot of American and a lot of Canadian, and there's not a lot of. The only one I see from overseas is that one. So maybe I'm wrong, but okay. Oh, there's a Belgian one in 1998.
It does sound familiar. It does seem like maybe that was the case. And then we had him there twice, right?
It says here there's 2 different appearances, yeah.
Yeah, I thought so.
Okay. All right.
Cool.
All right. Talk to you next time.
Yeah.